Hold your hand up if you guys that are standing would like to sit. We can bring out some more chairs. I don't see any hands. Okay, you're on your own. All right, we'll get this thing started. First of all, welcome. I'm glad we have such a great turnout. Thank you very much. First thing we're going to do is post the colors. Please rise. Order arms. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order arms. And now we'll have an invocation by Ivan Joslin, who is base commander at Sea Dragon Base in Lady Lake. Let's pray, please.
Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the meaning of why we're here. We thank you for Jack and his leadership. We thank you for the host Summerlin Academy and their willingness to support the submarine veterans. We thank you for everyone who has come here today. We pray that you will honor us by your presence with us. Bless our time together. Be with everyone who has any part of the ceremony today, and may we be a credit to your name. Bless our time together today, for we pray it in the name of your Son. Amen. Amen. You may be seated.
And now I'd like to introduce Bob Moffa, who's the founder of the American Ideals Foundation and a big supporter of this project. He's going to act as our MC.
Welcome, Jack, and thank you, and welcome. It's really a great morning, and when I say that, it's great in this respect. When you have a community like Polk County, Bartow, Summerlin Military Academy, and all of you come out today to honor veterans, that makes a great day. It really does. Okay, I got you now. Better. Good. Give me the signal, because I can hear it loud, but you can't, perhaps. Anyway, being a great day and having community come out is the basis of the American Ideals Foundation. Back in the early 60s, our goal was to go to communities, help them recognize their people. Who are the people? Children, whether they're terminal or healthy. The artists in the community, help them promote their works, especially as a cause. The next one is the veterans in our community, because the veterans is a large segment of our population. They represent not only the veterans, but many of us have families that are not veterans. It's such a large segment of the communities throughout the United States. And then we also recognize others in the community. Now, in the foundation, we have what we call divisions. We have the Children's Art Division, which is for young children, helping them. We have one for education. We have one for the veterans, which is the biggest one. Within the Military Heroes Division, we have veterans assistance. We have veterans job search. we don't do all the work, basically. We're like the finders. We lead veterans to these various things. I'd like to invite two people to stand up with me for a few minutes as I make these introductions. Our social worker for the American Ideals Foundation, and by the way, we're all over the U.S., not just in Bartow. This is Princess Rochelle. She's our social worker. We put her to work quite often with emotional family situations. And then we have Deborah Martin, our health and medical consultant. We have others, but they were being detained with other events and projects today. So I welcome both of them because they have a hard job ahead of them. You would be surprised some of the calls we get. We will get a call from a veteran that may want to commit suicide. We're not capable of helping them, but because of these two ladies, we can lead them to the VA. We can lead them to special situations. And in a situation like our Veterans Memorial for submarine veterans, we're meeting more and more submarine veterans that are still active. Yesterday in St. Pete, I met a young fellow that was off duty for a while, stationed out of Hampton Roads, Virginia. He's down here visiting his folks. I invited him here today, but there was an active duty submarine veteran. When I told him what the Sea Poachers base is doing, and Jack and his group, he was amazed. So the next time he gets leave, he's going to make sure that he comes here to visit this because it's so dear to him. I'd like to make some special recognition today. One of my the people that I respect very much in this county is the Director of Veteran Services, Mike Mason. Just put your hand up. Mike has one of the most unique jobs. We send his office, he may not know it at times, but we send him a lot of situations and problems. In every county in the United States, the county's Veteran Service Division is important. Another one is our vet center. The county of Polk County in Lakeland has its first vet center under the direction of Sherry Allen. If you have a veteran that needs something, you can also send them there. We have one other, is the Veteran Council of Polk County. Now, the reason why I deem these three service organizations so important is they help every veteran here. And if you don't know that there's something there they can help you with, believe it, they can. I have many veterans that come to us and say, nobody can help me. And we have a couple officers that are on our board, and they take them aside and they talk to them on how we can help them. And we get the hardest core veteran who says, oh, nobody can help me. We reach out to help. I'll tell you one quick story. This fellow served in the Navy. He got post-traumatic stress disorder. Both of his ankles were shot up pretty bad in his shoulder in the Mediterranean during first Iraq. He came back with post-traumatic stress disorder. After 2 years, couldn't find a job. He's a great guy. I'd hire him to do anything. But because of that, the court ordered him that he could not live with his 7 children and his wife. How did we feel about that? We didn't feel too good about that. We told the judge he did the wrong thing. But now the judge is listening to us because we feel that we can get him into certain organizations, maybe the Seacoast to help you folks, or our foundation. So when the judge said, if you can put him to work, I'll reconsider that he can go back and live with his family. So this is the type of things that we get involved in, and I wish I could get more help, right, girls? we all volunteers at the moment, and we need the help. I would like to do this because it sets the pace. Princess Rochelle, our social director, social service director, is going to read something from retired Colonel U.S. Navy Dave Clark, who's in charge of the Veterans Council of Polk County. It's short, so bear with me.
Hello. As the years pass, and we all too often must say goodbye to those of the greatest, generations who literally saved the world from tyranny, it is altogether appropriate that we memorize for the future generations the sacrifices they sustained. Those of us who have been granted the blessing of liberty by their efforts can never repay and should never forget what they did. I recall a quote attributed to John Stuart Mill. He reminded us that war is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feelings which think nothing worth a war is worth. A man who has nothing which he cares more about than he does about his personal safety is a miserable creature who has no chance at being free unless made and kept so by the exertion of better men than himself. Those who remember here, who plied the depths of the ocean in the name of freedom, were among those better men to which Mills referred. May we and all generations of Americans to come be worthy of their dedication and their sacrifice. Let us never forget.
We appreciate the Colonel, as Mike Mason and Sherry Aliff, they're very busy. I know Mike this morning was at a veterans event. He's going to another one after this. He changes not only his hat but his shirt. And the Colonel is busy presenting Purple Heart Award in Hillsborough County. Just quickly, I'd like to open again with the recognition of our Commander, Jack Merrill, that you've met. Rear Admiral Bill Habermeyer, Christy Gallemore, Ramsey, and the Gallemore family, Hazel Sellers, also Leroy Collins, and also the others that will be coming up on stage. So at this point, I'd like to introduce to you our Commander of Base Sea Poacher, Commander Jack Merrill.
Thank you, Bob. Very well. Very well done. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mike Butler for volunteering to accept this memorial at Summerlin Academy. We would not be here today if it were not for Mike. And also thank you to Steve Cochran, who has been very supportive since he's taken the reins at Summerlin Academy. We appreciate your support and the support of Summerlin Academy and the students. I'd also like to thank the Polk County School Board for their support and assistance. Helen and who else is here? I forget. Dick Mullen, please stand. Helen and there you go. Polk County School Board. And we have a representative from ACT. Would you stand? You know, Jeff Kincaid and Alan Plants, who I just heard yesterday is no longer with ACT, but those two individuals have got us where we are today. And I appreciate their support and assistance in creating the plans for this project and providing and installing the temporary mounts for the torpedo. And I know they'll be an integral part of this memorial as we go forward. Now, this one may be a little difficult for me. A big thank you to the late Ray Miller. Ray and Dennis Mullis. Where's Dennis? Dennis back there in the back. Dennis was an executive at Bartow Ford, and Ray Miller was a speedboat racer with Dennis. And they got together, and we had a tough time getting the torpedo. And the one we got, the Mark 16, was in terrible shape. It had a gash down the side of the thing. It was terrible. Then we spent $5,000 to get it from Washington State to here. Well, Ray got together with Dennis, and they decided that Bartow Ford would volunteer to refurbish it. Now it's no longer a torpedo. In my mind, this is a piece of art. Do you agree? Juan Miller and Ray's grandson are right down here in front. When I talked to Ray about 2 weeks before he passed, which was on March 2nd, I believe, and he told me that no matter how he felt, he'd be at this groundbreaking. Well, I truly believe that's the case. Thank you, Ray. I'd also like to thank Mike Mascalunas and the crew at Bartow Ford's Collision Center for their patience and hard work in the restoration of the torpedo. Great job, guys. I don't know if Mike is here, but I tell you, it took them 2 years to do it. We didn't pressure them, and then when they got it done, I know they wanted to get rid of it. We didn't have a place to put it yet, so they hung on to about 6 more months. This has been a long, hard journey, believe me. There have been times, like when we were searching for the torpedo in the first place, that I almost gave the towel in. But every time I'd get a little down, something would happen. I'd hit the torpedo. The torpedo came through with no propellers. Finally, we found the propellers. Now all we got to do is find $20,000 more. We'll have this done. And I'd also like to thank especially Patrick Brett. Where's Patrick? He's here somewhere. There he is, back there. Patrick Brett. He's one of our newer additions to the base, and his assistance has been invaluable to us in this project especially. He created the website sub-vet-memorial.org. You want to check it out? And he's in charge of publicity. Thank you, Patrick, for your patience also. This memorial is about honoring those submariners who have given and will continue to give their lives protecting this wonderful country and the ideals which we hold dear. I dare say that if it were not for the submarine, the outcome of the Pacific theater in World War II would have been much different. Also, I believe that the Cold War ended the way it did because of the submarine. The Russians realized that any aggression toward us would have ended their existence. I was a participant in the Cuban crisis along with Ivan and Richard Club and probably some others out here. And we witnessed firsthand what might have happened. I think by now everybody knows just how close we came to a nuclear disaster. The submarines that have been lost and will be lost, men and women, will serve and deserve this memorial. Thank you.
I'm going to make a quick presentation. We'll sneak in a lot of little things. Yes, I got it now. There it goes. We got to remember to put that button on. I'd like to present Commander Merrill and the Sea Poachers a plaque from the Foundation congratulating them on putting this project together for submarine veterans. You can look at it later, it'll be on display. So Jack, there's a lot more coming.
By the way, the people that create this live in Maine.
Jack was so happy when I told him that. It could have been a blank. Gentlemen, will you get that, please? I'd like to introduce someone else in the audience that is very special to this county. Commissioner Melody Bell, would you please raise your hand? We'll find out where you are. There you are. There you go. Okay. Thank you. It is with great honor and pleasure that I introduce our speaker, Rear Admiral Bill Habermeyer. I'm going to read a little bit about him. Admiral is from Aoria, Illinois. Graduated from the Naval Academy in 1964. Received his master's degree in administration from George Washington University in 1970. He commanded the USS Puffer. Shore assignments include staff in Naval Academy and Submarine Squadron 4. He was the prospective commanding officer instructor on the staff of the COMSUB PAC, the program coordinator for the Seawolf nuclear attack submarine, an executive assistant to the DCNO submarine warfare. Major commands include Commander Submarine Force 7th Fleet, Commander Submarine Group 7, Commandant of the Midshipmen at the U.S. Naval Academy, and the Commander Submarine Group 2. He was selected for flag rank in 1988, was promoted to Rear Admiral in 1991, and retired in 1992. He is married to the former Sally McCarley, Cheshire of Nashville, Tennessee. They have 2 sons, Jim and Billy. He resides in Tampa, Florida. With no other delay, it is my pleasure and honor, and we're very fortunate to have the Admiral with us today. Admiral.
Well, good morning, and it is an honor to be here at the Holland Gallemore Submarine Veterans Memorial. I'd like to thank Jack for inviting me. I appreciate it. I'd also like to thank Bud Alexander for recommending me. Thank you, Bud. Little did I know that my path with the Gallemore family would once again cross this morning. 44 years ago, then Midshipman Lieutenant Gallemore, who's seated here in the front row, and I were together at the United States Naval Academy. Had I known then that 44 years later we would once again be in the same area, I probably would have been a little bit more generous at that time. But we are here today to honor submarine veterans. And as I looked at caps and jackets in the audience and up here on the podium, I did recognize a lot of my former association with the submarine force, and each one has its own story. Fortunately, there's not enough time to tell all those stories today, but I would like to just basically recount a little about the submarine veteran and the submarine veteran history. I mean, we honor those veterans who were the groundbreakers in our particular profession. David Bushnell, who designed and built the very first submarine, and unfortunately was not successful in its first mission against the British fleet, who were blockading then the city of New York City in the Revolutionary War. We also had Robert Fulton, who at the end of the War of 1812 had an idea for a submarine and was ready to build one. Unfortunately, with the war's conclusion, much like today, much of the budget to the Navy was reduced, and as a result, he sought to sell his submarine to the French and to the British. Well, the British did not concern themselves with submarines. They felt it was a useless object, not certainly worthy of the British fleet. The French, at that time, Emperor Napoleon, said, well, this is just another money-grubbing Yankee trying to sell a half-brain idea to the French, and they refused it as well. And then finally, John Holland, who designed and built the first submarine, which was the first submarine of the United States Navy. So the early side of the submarine force was rather modest, certainly not something that we today would look back on and say was the ushering in of a submarine generation, but in fact it was. World War I, of course, the exploits of the German U-boats gave it then a young Lieutenant Chester Nimitz an idea how submarines might be utilized in a strategic way to choke off sea lanes. And he certainly put that knowledge to good use in World War II. In World War II, as you all know, the submarines sunk 1,113 merchant ships, or 56% of all the merchant tonnage sunk. They sunk 201 naval vessels, or 28% of all the naval tonnage sunk. And by 1943, the Japanese General Staff had already concluded that they could no longer win the war, largely because submarines had choked off the vital resources that were used to resupply Japan and their war machine. They fought on, but the impact of the submarine finally crushed the Japanese in terms of their inability to gain resources to continue the war. But it certainly came at a cost. 52 submarines, 375 officers, 3,113 brave crew members died in fighting that war. But who were these men? As Bob said, I grew up in Aurora, Illinois, and two people, both of whom had strong impacts in my life, both came from my hometown. Sam Colby Loomis and Slade DeVell Cutter. Both grew up in Aurora, Illinois. Both went to East Aurora High School. Both entered the Naval Academy in the same year, and both became submariners. Sam Colby Loomis is probably best known for his heroic rescue of a naval aviator off of Guam. The USS Stingray was alerted to the fact that an aviator had gone down off a Rhodey Point. Stingray proceeded to the entrance to the harbor of Guam and came under heavy anti-aircraft fire, which was directed at the submarine. These were anti-aircraft batteries, but they were firing at the ship as it neared a Rhodey Point and firing at the aviator who was in his life raft. Stingray submerged, made 3 passes with its periscope raised to try to snag the aviator, each time failing, unfortunately. On the 4th pass, Captain Loomis said, well, if he doesn't grab it this time, I think we're out of here. Fortunately, he did. He towed the aviator a mile to sea, surfaced, rescued the aviator, who were one of about 500 naval aviators rescued by submarines in World War II. Sam Loomis received the Silver Star and the Legion of Merit for his exploits in World War II. Slade Cutter. Could there be a better name for a submarine commanding officer? Slade Cutter entered the Naval Academy in 1931. Slade's mother refused to let him play football in high school because she was afraid he would get hurt. So he took up playing the flute, and he became the state flautist champion in the state of Illinois. But when he got to the Naval Academy, the athletic director said, young man, at 6'1" and 215 pounds, you look like you could play football. So Slade started his football career, and not only did he play football, he was an All-American at the Naval Academy. In 1934, he kicked the field goal that beat Army, and he was elected to the Football Hall of Fame. Additionally, he was the heavyweight boxing champion at the Naval Academy. After that, he never held captain's mast on board his command, the Seahorse. He always invited the miscreant to the deck to have a boxing match with him. And you can imagine that the Seahorse was one of the best behaved submarines in the Pacific Fleet. Slade Cutter sunk 19 ships. He ranked 2nd in total number of ships sunk, tied with Mushmorton of the Wahoo. Slade Cutter won 4 Navy Crosses, 3 Legions of Merit, a Silver Star, and a Bronze Star. A true hero, and certainly one that I looked up to all my life in terms of someone to emulate in the submarine force. I last saw Slade in 2004. He's 91 years old, still as crusty as ever, still unwilling to bend to any challenge that faced him. I admire the man. The post-World War II period certainly was the dawn of a new age for submarines with nuclear power. For the first time, submarines were released from being tethered to the surface with almost unlimited range and speed that allowed them to close any target. The submarine became a true capital ship of the United States Navy. With improved sensors and improved weapons, the submarine was, in fact, the most serious threat in the post-World War II and the Cold War era. As Jack pointed out, the Cold War period was largely settled by virtue of the submarines being able to threaten Soviet strategic areas. We celebrate today the Cold Warriors and submariners in that period who maintained the peace. In today's murky wars involving terrorism, submarines are still very much involved. They maintain a strong presence against rogue states and certainly against those states that support terrorism. It's entirely fitting that we honor submariners and submarine veterans at this memorial who serve to remind us of their sacrifice. I thank the Sea Poacher Base for organizing and spearheading this effort. I think it's a very, very appropriate reminder of the debt that we owe to all submarine veterans. Thank you very much.
A lot of these pictures will go into the archives of the Post. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Admiral. I'd like to quickly thank two gentlemen that asked us for our assistance, and that's Commander Jack Merrill and Patrick Britt. Thank you both. We're here to assist you in any way we can. I'm going to ask a question that we usually ask at many of these affairs and events and projects. Do we have any ladies, women in the audience that have served in the armed forces? Okay. How's that? A lot better. Good, I keep forgetting. Do we have any women in the audience today that served in the armed forces? Okay, that sometimes happens. Somebody help there with the paintings that are blowing over, please. Now, the next thing is, do we have any ladies from the USO here today? You do, right? I know. We have a lady here that served her time in the USO in the 40s, many years, and she's sitting there near her walker, Miss Mary Sheets. I know she's seen quite a few submarines. She lived near the Coast Guard base in Cape May, one of the largest training centers in the U.S. Her husband was Charles Sheets, who served 2 pitches in the Army, one in the early mid-30s, then again in World War II. He's being honored. You'll see his plaque at another memorial. Let's go on right now because we have a very interesting young lady coming up. I'd like to introduce you this time, representing the Gallemore family, Christy Gallemore Rainey.
My name is Christy Ramsey, and Roy Holland Gallemore was my grandfather. Can you hear me? There are 3 generations of Roy's family here today, and in total he has 5 children, 17 grandchildren, 29 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandson. Although I've heard many stories, I don't have many memories of my grandfather as an officer in the Navy, but I do have fond memories of him after those defining years of his life. During summers, my family and I spent almost every weekend at his house here in Bartow. My sister and I learned to swim and dive in the pool at that house. There was a muscadine vine growing on the chain-link pool fence that we'd sneak grapes from and ruin our dinner. Granddaddy, as I called him, had a sign in the kitchen that read, "Please don't pee in our pool, we don't swim in your toilet." Roy's son, Dan Gallemore, my uncle, loves to tell stories about him from their childhood. Once Roy caught an octopus in Key West and decided to tenderize it in the washing machine without telling my grandmother. She discovered it on her own, and you can imagine the reaction. Another time, he caught a snake by the tail and was unable to tell whether it was poisonous, and in order to keep it from biting him or the kids, he slung it around a few good times by the end of the tail and threw it a safe distance. From what I've been told, he and the boys were constantly bringing home random creatures to terrorize the women in the house. I like to think that I come by my sense of fun and humor honestly. I remember Granddaddy taking us on walks around Hack Lake. We'd walk the dogs, pick up maple leaves, feed the ducks, and listen to him and our father exchange stories. More than once, we visited shut-ins to bring them dinner and talk for a bit. I remember birthday parties, Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, car trips to search out Christmas lights after dark. This was the Roy Gallemore that we grew up with, and this is how much of our family remembers him. We are honored to have the Submarine Veterans Memorial at Summerlin Academy bear the name of Roy Holland Gallemore, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and even great-great-grandfather to so many of us. We're so very proud that his name and accomplishments will live on through this memorial dedicated to so many servicemen and women who served our country in the U.S. Navy and have now passed on. Thank you from the entire extended Gallemore family.
It's amazing. I can listen to the stories all day long. There you go. There you go. Always remind me. I'm so used to a standing one. I said it was so nice to hear those stories, and I can hear them all the time. We're creating a published book called Military Stories, as other organizations are, and we may be calling you to add to the stories. Just quickly, when she was talking about when she said the word humor about submarines, about 15 years ago, I was out about 40 miles, 50 miles out in the Gulf, and it was nighttime. It was on a 65-foot schooner. And the Coast Guard came over. They never addressed who they were at first. They just shined a light down the cabin, and they said, "Any occupants, please make yourself available." So I said, "Sir, this is one of them." He said, "We're looking for a submarine. Have you seen it?" And here I'm just waking up, and I said, "No, sir, I didn't see any submarine. I thought they were space aliens, with the spotlight down on me." So then he addressed his situation. An old German U-boat. As fishermen had seen it out there floating this way, but it would ebb to the shallow waters and go like this against the bottom and then go back out. He said it was seen within a couple of miles from your area. So we looked for it the next day, and he said you'll see it by the pile of growth or grass. And we found it for them out about 40, 50 miles. Been floating out there this direction for many, many, many years. So it's amazing. It's probably still out there. I don't know if they recovered it. On our schedule next, we have someone very special for this county, Hazel Sellers. Hazel, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of the Polk County School Board, I want to say that we're extremely proud and honored to have this Roy Holland Gallemore Submarine Veterans Memorial placed at Summerlin Military Academy. Not only is it a wonderful memorial to all of those submariners who gave their life to preserve this country as we know it today, but for the school system, this is a piece of history being brought to life. For years and years, for generations to come, when they see this memorial, first of all, they're going to be amazed at how big a torpedo actually is. I was amazed. It's twice the size of what I imagined. But it's going to spark their minds. They're going to have questions. They're going to remember when they hear in their history classes about a submarine. It's no longer going to be an abstract thing to them. And so he brought a piece of history here to Bartow. And the other thing that I'm extremely proud about is that we've named it after someone that lived here in Bartow. Bartow has a rich history of having many, many people that have made a significant contribution to this nation. And I believe that we will continue to do that in the future. But students, when they realize that somebody that lived here in their town had a significant part in keeping our country safe, that means a lot. So I want to give a special thanks to the Sea Poachers Base for doing this very difficult project. I know how hard you've worked over the past 2 years in getting that torpedo. And I also want to thank Bartow Ford it is a magnificent job that you've done in reconstructing it. I just can't thank everybody that's had a part in this enough. And it is going to be a significant addition to Bartow. And like I said, for generations to come, we have a piece of living history here that will make our children understand in a very real sense what took place and what takes place for us to have this wonderful, safe country. So thank you again, and thank you for allowing the Polk County School Board to be a part of this. Thank you.
We're going to treat you a little bit. Ladies, can you get
Want to turn it on again?
Oh, yeah, there it goes. There, thank you, sir. You're my director, producer. Can you get the raffle tickets and just pass them out? They are free, right? Yeah, these are free, a gift to you. So everybody get a ticket and we'll draw soon. We have some nice gifts. They're on the table, the red tickets. In the efforts to recognize this memorial, you hear from a group of people that have different ways of life, different presentations. They're all important. Every one of us has some veteran in the family. And this is more than historical. What the foundation plans to do is, Bay News 9 was supposed to be here, and so was Channel 8. They assured us, called us, and I don't know what happened. But what we're prepared for, and those of you that are involved in TV, you know what happens sometimes. So we're prepared, Jack, to give a post-article, a situation to the TV stations in your behalf and your post behalf. Next, I'd like to present someone that represents the Polk County Commissioners. Across the nation, when we go into a county, we often work very closely with county commissioners from getting proclamations, getting their assistance in our speaking. In 1983, I worked with a commissioner from the little town of Bonner Springs, Kansas. And almost 50, 60 years later, his son is now on our board. I didn't know he was the son until we investigated who he was. So you never know what happens in this small world. At this time, I'm really proud to present the Polk County Commissioner's representative, Melody Bell.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. What an honor it is to be here on behalf of the Board of Polk County Board of County Commissioners, and our condolences to the family here. I know that he surely is here in spirit. So, and what a wonderful speech from his granddaughter. That was moving. I would also like to recognize our county commissioner that's here, John Hall. He is a newly elected commissioner, took office back in November, and he has certainly been involved, and he is, we are so fortunate to have the 5 county commissioners that's on our board right now, because we each see the importance of Veterans Association, and having Mike Mason here in the audience, he is diligent to go out into the community to make sure that our veterans are taken care of properly. We appreciate what the veterans have done. I come from a long, lengthy family of veterans. Both of my brothers served in the Navy. I had one on a submarine. My father was Air Force, and my grandfather was Army. It just so happened I got in from Washington, D.C. last night at 11 o'clock, and the day before yesterday, I had a meeting over at the Pentagon. Well, while over there, we were taking a tour of the memorial that was done for when the airplane flew in 9/11. 180 people lost their lives that day, just in the Pentagon. And we think about the Twin Towers, we think about the plane going down in Pennsylvania. And this made me think today, you know, we recognize our sailors, but never think about them going down in the submarines. And we thank you for your service, each and every one of you, for the veterans that have saved us, and that we're able to speak English today. that we're able to salute the flag and be free. So on behalf of the Polk County Board of County Commissioners, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miller. Microphone again. I'll get it eventually. I'll see that green shirt of yours forever now. It is with great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I'm very familiar with the late Leroy Collins Jr. So it's my great pleasure and honor to present to you Leroy Collins III. Thank you, sir.
Churchill once said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." That is exactly why we are here today. To honor the service of Captain Roy Gallemore, who served on the USS Seaport Poacher during all 4 of its war patrols during World War II. To honor his family for providing him the love and inspiration to proudly carry on. To honor his fellow veterans, those here today and on eternal patrol for providing him with brotherhood and strength during the dark days of war. And to honor the legacy of all public servants, whether it's veterans, educators, or teachers who have given to a cause as much greater than themselves. Captain Gallemore was a submariner like my dad, who was also named Roy. He was influenced to serve just like his father served, and just like my grandfather influenced my father to serve. They all shared a generational love for the Navy, and in particular the submarine service. Like my dad, he went to Naval Academy, and like my dad, he wore his dolphins proudly. I know their paths crossed during their time in America's submarine family. Pride runs deep. While I was influenced to serve my country as an airborne ranger, I'm all too familiar with naval tradition and what it means to be a submarine sailor, especially those in the silent service. A sailor is away for months at